in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Sports Report Express on this Tuesday. Sportscaster 89 here with you today. Going to recap last night's national championship game between the Miami Hurricanes and Indiana Hoosiers. We'll recap last night in the NBA. We'll preview championship weekend in the NFL. But before we get started with all that today, I'm going to read you guys a devotional today from the Holy Spirit. And today's verse of the day comes from 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 15. Once again, I'm going to read 1 Thessalonians 5:15. It reads, "See that no one pays back evil for evil, but always try to do good to each other and to all people." Once again, I'll read 1 Thessalonians 5:15. It reads, "See that no one pays back evil for evil, but always try to do good to each other and to all people." With that said, let's get started with today's Sports Report Express on this Tuesday. All right, let's go to last night. Let's go to last night's national championship game. So we want to congratulate the Indiana Hoosiers for winning their first national championship ever. They complete the perfect season, going 16-0. The last team to go undefeated in football was Yale back in 1984. So we got to congratulate the University of Indiana for winning the national championship last night by a final score of 27-21. Heisman Trophy winner Fernando Mendoza played really well last night. Miami came back a few times. Carson Beck was driving the Canes to get the winning score, but he was intercepted by a defender, Sharp for Indiana. Indiana kneeled it out, and Indiana finds a way to beat Miami by 6, 27-21. So Miami game seal interception last night. Carson Beck, after the game, said the game seal interception hurt. He hurt his team right there in that situation. But you got to give the nod to Miami. They weren't expected to be here going to the national championship game. It started all season long. Nobody counted Miami. Nobody gave Miami a chance to make the CFP. They had wins over Notre Dame. They had 2 losses against SMU and Louisville, but they found ways to convince the committee all season long that this Miami team was for real. And Mario Cristobal has done a phenomenal job as head coach. I got to give him a nod. But at the end of the day, you got to give Coach Kirk Cignetti and Fernando Mendoza the nod. So congrats, Indiana. Well-deserved last night. Now that college football is over now, we got to get back into the NBA. We got championship weekend in the NFL to look forward to this weekend. So I'm going to give you guys all the scores and highlights from last night's action on this MLK Day, which was yesterday. Hope you guys had a wonderful MLK Day. Hope you guys remembered MLK for what he did for the civil rights movement and all those things. But with that said, I'm going to get to the highlights from last night. Let's start in hockey first. We're going to go hockey today. All right? So, here we go. Let's load the scores from last night. Let's start in Carolina as the Hurricanes defeat the Sabres by a goal 2-1. The Avalanche over the Capitals by 3, 5-2. The Penguins over the Kraken by 3, 6-3. The Sharks defeat the Panthers by 3 goals, 4-1. The Wild defeat the Maple Leafs by 3 goals, 6-3. Next, we go to Vegas as the Flyers defeat the Vegas Golden Knights by a goal, 2-1. Next, we go to Chicago as the Winnipeg Jets played the Chicago Blackhawks, and they shut out the Winnipeg Jets, the Blackhawks, 2-0. Next, we go to Calgary as the Devils took on the Flames in Calgary. The Devils gained an overtime win, 2-1. Islanders over Vancouver last night, 4-3. And last but not least, from Anaheim, the Rangers lose by 2 goals to Anaheim, 5-3. Let's look ahead to tonight in the National Hockey League. The Wild will take on the Canadiens at 7. The Sharks will take on the Lightning at 7. The Senators will take on the Blue Jackets at 7. The Bruins will take on the Stars in Dallas at 7:30 on TNT. The Sabres and the Predators will go out in Nashville at 8. The Blues take on the Jets at 8 o'clock. Second game of that doubleheader tonight on TNT. Devils will take on Edmonton from Edmonton. That's tonight at 10 on TNT. And to round out the action in the National Hockey League, the Rangers continue their West Coast swing with a game against the Los Angeles Kings from Crypto.com Arena. Now, let's look into college hoops last night. Columbia losing to Yale by 17, 91-74. Siena over Fairfield last night by 8, 85-77. Mount St. Mary's over Niagara by 10, 68-58. Merrimack over Marist by 13, 68-55. Quinnipiac over Manhattan overtime by 6, 98-92. Mercyhurst over Central Connecticut by 18, 79-61. Harvard over Penn by 1, 64-63. FDU over Wagner by 7, 68-61. New Hampshire over Maine, 65-48. UMBC over Binghamton by 18, 78-60. NJIT over Bryant by 24, 79-55. VCU over St. Joe, 79-72. Alcorn State over Prairie View by 1, 76-75. Lemoyne over Long Island by 6, 83-77. Howard over Morehouse, 78-69. McNeese State over Texas A&M Corpus Christi, 69-53. George Mason over George Washington by 5, 69-64. Alabama A&M over Alabama State by 4, 73-69. Dartmouth over Princeton by 2, 71-69. Marquette over Providence in overtime by 1, 105-104. East Texas A&M over Incarnate Word, 80-58. Bethune over Arkansas Pine Bluff by 5 in overtime, 87-82. Elizabeth City over Norfolk, losing to Norfolk by 25, 86-61. New Haven over Chicago State by 6, 62-56. Lehigh over Loyola Maryland by 7, 88-81. UT Rio Grande over Southeastern Louisiana last night by a final score of 68-65. Stephen F. Austin over Nicholls State by 17, 79-62. Florida A&M over Mississippi Valley State by 14, 62-58. 62-48, excuse me. Texas Southern over Jackson State over Texas Southern by 5, 94-89. New Orleans over Lamar, 89-76. Montana State over Northern Colorado by 5, 73-68. Montana over Northern Arizona by 26, 98-72. And Hampton over North Carolina A&T last night by a final count of 82-61. Let's look at tonight in college hoops. Boy, we got a lot of college hoops tonight in the top 25. It starts at 7 with Indiana taking on Michigan on Peacock at 7. UCF travels to Ames, Iowa to take on Iowa State. Florida will play host to LSU at 7. Clemson plays NC State at 7 on AC Network. Duquesne will play host to St. Louis on ESPN Plus at 7. Miami of Ohio and the MAC will take on Kent State at 7. Michigan State takes on Oregon at 9 on FS1. Texas Tech will play host to Baylor at 9 o'clock on Peacock. And last but not least, there's a lot of games tonight. Let's go to the SEC as Vanderbilt will take on Arkansas at 9 on ESPN. Georgia plays host to Missouri in Columbia at 9 o'clock on SEC Network. Tonight on Peacock at 10, it's Purdue against UCLA from Pauley Pavilion. And then last but not least, tonight at 11 o'clock Eastern Time in the Big 12, Kansas will take on Colorado to round out college hoops on this Tuesday. Now, let's go to the NBA to wrap this all up. Let's go over the scores from yesterday around the National Basketball Association. The Bucks with a 2-point win over the Hawks, 112-110. The Thunder over the Cavs in a blowout, 136-104. The Clippers over the Wizards by 4, 110-106. The Mavericks blow out the Knicks, 114-97. The Spurs over the Jazz by 13, 123-110. The Sixers over the Pacers, 113-104. The Suns beat the Nets by 9, 126-117. The Pistons by 1 over the Celtics as Jaylen Brown missed a game-winning jumper for the Celtics to overtake the Pistons. So the Pistons went by 1, 104-103. And last but not least, from San Francisco, the Warriors over the Heat last night, 135-112. Jimmy Butler is done for the year for the Warriors. He hurt his ACL last night, so he's going to need season-ending surgery for the Warriors. So Jimmy Buckets is out for the year for the Warriors. Now, let's look ahead to the night in the association. The Suns will take on the Sixers in Philly at 7. The Clippers continue their road trip in Chicago to take on the Bulls at 8. The Spurs will take on the Rockets on NBC at 8 o'clock and also on Peacock as rivalry week continues in the National Basketball Association starting tonight. The Timberwolves will take on the Jazz at 9. The Lakers will take on the Nuggets from Denver at 10 on NBC and Peacock. The Warriors continue their homestand against the Raptors tonight at 10. And last but not least, the Heat will continue its West Coast swing as they play Sacramento. Once again, I'll give you guys the schedule for tonight around the association. Suns and Sixers at 7. Clippers and Bulls at 8. Spurs and Rockets at 8 o'clock on NBC and Peacock. Timberwolves and Jazz from Utah at 9. Nuggets and Lakers at 10 o'clock on NBC and Peacock. The Warriors and the Raptors from Chase Center in San Francisco at 10. And last but not least, from Golden One Center in Sacramento, the Heat continue their West Coast road trip against the Sacramento Kings at 10 o'clock. And last but not least, we will preview championship weekend as we are down to the final 4 teams in the NFL. So, Patriots and Broncos are first at 3 on CBS and Paramount Plus. And last but not least, it'll be the Rams playing the Seahawks in Seattle with a trip to Super Bowl 60 on the line. Once again, Patriots and Broncos on CBS on Sunday at 3, followed by Rams and Seahawks at 6:30 only on Fox. The winners of these games will head to Super Bowl 60 to play on February 8th in San Francisco on NBC and Peacock. So with that, we're going to wrap up today's Sports Report Express. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I'm Sportscaster89. Wish you all a blessed rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you guys tomorrow for another edition of Sports Report Express. Make it a great Tuesday and go with God. All right, guys? Take care.